Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and Eagles fans of all ages, welcome into another episode of the Linc'd In Podcast. Lindy, what episode are we on? 35?
35.
35. So, episode 35, man, we got a lot of stuff to get into this evening. Earlier today, we had the pleasure to talk to Merrill Reese, who has been the voice of the Eagles for 47 years. This guy's been doing it longer than we've both been alive, and then some. Great guy. So we're gonna actually share some part of our conversation, and the full conversation is going to be uploaded on Monday. You can catch that on the Sideline Sports YouTube channel. You can catch it on my YouTube channel and Lindy's. So make sure you guys are subscribed to all three of them. Eagles improved to 3-0. We're going to talk about that. We're going to preview the Washington Commanders game this week. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the biggest talk around the world right now in the NFL, which is the controversy of the Tush Push, or as some people are calling it, the brotherly shove. Lindy, what's up, my man? How are you tonight?
Little bit extra jittery after today. Had such a surreal moment with having the voice of the Philadelphia Eagles, and in terms of radio, and having Merrill Reese on there, and just getting to ask the man questions in person. It's quite an experience. I'm not going to forget. And then in some capacity, bringing back my channel and actually being live on my channel. I don't know why we didn't think about it sooner, just to help with broadcasting. But in some kind of capacity, I love that, my channel is kind of alive again. So,
ladies and gentlemen, you can now view the Linc'd In Podcast, not only on my channel, not only on Sideline Sports YouTube channel, on Lindy's channel. So make sure you guys also tune in over there as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. Eagles improved to 3-0. 25-11 is the final score of this game. So I have to say, offensively, it was a little bit better. Still wasn't great in the red zone. Had to kick a couple field goals. Wasn't really what we were hoping for. But the offense generally was able to move the ball up and down the field, especially at the end of that game when, Tampa goes down the field and they get in the end zone after they were relatively shut down most of the game. Mike Evans made an unbelievable catch. So shout out to Mike Evans because even as an opposing fan, you got to just appreciate certain things. So great catch by him late in the fourth quarter. But it was not to be. The Eagles took 9 minutes off the clock to drain the game out. Was an outstanding performance also by the defense. Jalen Carter, guy cannot be stopped whatsoever. The story of this game for me, guys, is going to be back-to-back games with the Eagles. 200-plus yards rushing. Another standout performance by DeAndre Swift. 130-something yards for him. And this was the 11th game in the Nick Sirianni era where the Eagles have rushed for over 200 yards. So shout out to the offensive line, Jeff Stoutland, Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson. Great game plan for them. And the defense definitely showed out. I think it was a good team win. Tampa Bay, I think people are going to try to downplay the win. But Tampa Bay is a good football team, ladies and gentlemen. They have good players on both sides of the ball. I'm expecting them to do something. I'm expecting them to win the NFC South, which is a very winnable division for them. When you look at who they're up against, the New Orleans Saints, kind of lackluster. Carolina still not having a win on the season. I see this as a winnable division for them. Then I think it was a good win against a good team. So got to give props to the Eagles where it's due, and hopefully going into this week against the Commanders, they'll build on it and improve.
It's such a huge advantage at the same time, though, when you see the amount of Eagles fans there, as there were, just taking over the stadium. And I think there was a report about how many different Eagles. There was like at least 65% Eagles fans there or something along those lines, and they're taking part in firing the cannons and the flag and everything. They're just, we're not only trying to take the game over on the field, but they're trying to take the game over in the bleachers and in the stands. It was just absolutely hilarious. But I think that's just an awesome testament to know how well our fan base travels for every one of our
It was
games.
like a home game.
So we'll get into some of the statistics here as we have as the banner likes to say, though, we did make a new home. We made a new home in Tampa that night, and it was hilarious. And I know people are talking about, some of these wins look ugly. The 3-0 sounds nice, but does it really, in a sense? And I think after week 3, it's starting to get back to, kind of the Eagles team that we know from 2022 that unfortunately lost the Super Bowl. We know that. I'm about to hit myself because I continue to bring it up. It's a new season, but nonetheless, let's get into a little bit of it here. So, as we know, Jalen Hurts this game, he was kind of up and down in some of his spots here. 23 of 37, 277, a touchdown. You could take 2 of the interceptions. You can take those interceptions away because I don't believe they're Carson Wentz-esque, where they're just errant throws. There's no thought process behind them, and that's how I kind of felt with them. Well, the one where he was targeting DeAndre Swift, that one I think was just blatant miscommunication, and that's something that'll be cleaned up between the teammates and the offensive coordinator, because we know Hurts and Brian Johnson are still trying to get on the same page. He still had a QBR of above average. He was at about a 63. He only took 1 sack, 7.5 yards per attempt. Those are things that you're going to take all day. If you can get over the 7-yard mark and stay there for a good period of time, you're going to move the football up and down the field. Again, you talked about the run game, 201 rushing yards as a team. That's kind of hard. That's going to be hard to stop on a weekly basis if this keeps up. And the biggest reason for that is DeAndre Swift, Agent Zero, getting swifty with it, as I like to say sometimes. Don't hate me for that. But 16 carries for 130 yards. The amount of efficiency that he had that night to be over 8 yards per carry. I mean, he's right behind. I think he's right behind Christian McCaffrey right now as one of the best rushers in football. It's like 1-2.
He's got 300 plus yards in the 2 games alone, and it begs the question, Lindy. What if DeAndre Swift would actually got carries against the New England Patriots? What conversation would we be having right now? Everyone around the league is talking about the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift duo, but how about I talk to you about this Swift and Kelce duo? They're doing great stuff right now.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. Well, I guess you can put it as our Kelce and Swift are both on the football field producing for our team and making wins, and there's only the other Swift is who she is, and the other Kelce is just one player who's a fantastic tight end. Don't get me wrong. So yeah. I think in that sense, 2 beats 1. But
you gotta say, they showed Taylor Swift I don't know how many times. I was gonna say, what if someone made a drinking game of how many shots would you take a shot every time they show Taylor Swift on the camera? But I decided, that's going to lead to too much liver dysfunction, so I'm going to pass on that one, respectfully.
As if that was more important than just watching the football game. Like
it kind of was. I mean, they were playing the Bears, so I mean, was there even a point?
Oh yeah. That's kind of true. That's kind of true.
They got the Jets this week, so.
But we get off of that, and then we get into, once again up here, it wasn't just the run game. I mean, Jalen Hurts was starting to air it out once more. He was trying to hit Devontae Smith, but this was the A.J. Brown game. 9 receptions, 131 yards. Olamide Zaccheaus gets his first touchdown as an Eagle on just one of those more crucial third down conversions. It's third
Such
and
a great
10.
throw by Jalen.
It's just it's an unbelievable throw. It's like the throw against the Vikings where he has a rusher staring him down in the face. He's still able to get the ball off in time. He takes the hit, and it's just a beautifully thrown ball in stride both times. The Vikings won the Vikings game. It was to Devontae Smith, and then this one it was to Olamide. And I mean, my goodness, the way he's able to move the pocket, manipulate the play to his liking when it breaks down. Those were a lot of things that we didn't consistently see from Carson Wentz. And I know people are trying to develop a PTSD there and Hurts is holding on to the ball too long and this and that, but you have to give it to
and he delivered a great pass.
Yes. And on top of that, you have to give it to Jalen in the fact that he's being smart with it. He's not afraid. He's not afraid to throw it away. He's not afraid to slide. He's not afraid to slide for just short yardage instead of fighting for the first down. I think he's developing a lot more of a care with the football in his hands, and that's an awesome thing. On the flip side, and we get to see what Tampa Bay didn't do this game. We held Baker Mayfield to under 150 yards passing, one interception. He was only 15 of 25. QBR was kind of crap on us. Then now there's two different ratings. I'm not exactly sure what the other rating is, to my knowledge, that how they refer to it. But this QBR is graded on a scale of 0 to 100. So you can kind of take it as 50 is average, anything under 50, below average, the lower the number, the worse the performance was. So to see the defense perform the way that they did against the Tampa Bay Bucs in this case, to hold them to a QBR of under 35, the defense sacking him twice, for the third straight week, and I know this has been a problem area for the Buccaneers, they were not, again, they were not very effective in running the football. They got Mike Evans going just too little, too late in the game. I know he had a case of the dropsies early. The rain did play a factor in that temporarily because it was on and off, as Florida weather is that way a lot of times. And it's crazy because after a massive week 2 win against the Chicago Bears, Evans goes almost quiet the entire game. Defensively, they weren't very good either. The Eagles were 10 of 16 on third down. You're going to take that any day of the week. And once more, and I love this from this team this year. Just like the 2022 Eagles, once again, for 2 straight weeks, the Eagles were able to dominate time of possession by almost 19 minutes. And so long as you're careful with the football on the offensive side and you're as dominant as you are defensively, you're not going to allow teams to do anything when they have the football. So, and that's a lot of where the Eagles' victories came from last year, is just controlling the clock, keeping the ball out of the opposing quarterback's hands, and just not allowing them to gain any kind of momentum. So all around, this was a fantastic win for them to stay undefeated. I think the rust is slowly starting to be shaken off, but I don't think it's quite gone just yet. But we're only
not gone just yet, but the team seems to be getting on the right track. And that's been a topic of conversation, Lindy, about whether or not the Eagles team is the same from last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a big topic of conversation because every week we're kind of like, is this the same team that kind of ran through the NFC last year? When are they going to start to try to find their groove? And earlier when we were talking to Merrill, he actually had something really interesting to say about the Eagles in terms of them not being able to find their groove.
I'll go one step further. I'm going to tell you this. This is a better team than last year's. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, but I'm saying that when I look at this team and what they lost and what they gained, this team is better. I mean, last year's team had a rookie, Jordan Davis, who was hampered by a concussion, by a high ankle sprain. Last year's team didn't have somebody by the name of Jalen Carter. He is fierce. He is absolutely unstoppable. And when you put Jordan Davis, who has matured and is playing lights out football, and Jalen Carter, I mean, if I were Sam Howell, I think I'd be hiding behind a rock right now.
Sam sacked already 19 times this season.
I think it will grow.
Wow.
Watch out. So, guys, Merrill himself says that the Eagles team of this year is actually better than last year. So, I think what we're seeing of this team is, are they playing lights out football from day one? No. But they also weren't playing that last year. The team was struggling against Detroit. The team struggled against the Arizona Cardinals early on in the season. And then as the season went on, then they started to figure it out. And then they started playing like the team that went to the Super Bowl, obviously. So I think with more time, the team is going to continue to get better. And we're not going to have these type of conversations about whether this team is still the class of the NFC. Because even though San Francisco may look like that now, will it stay that way? I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Him talking about Jalen Carter and what he's already brought to this Eagles defense this year is slowly becoming just very remarkable. And Merrill did talk about that and what somebody had to tell him in a recent interview, and you guys can wait for the video for that as to who Jalen Carter was compared to, in a sense, not going all the way up there, but you guys might have the idea. But for a 1 week span, and this is why I have him listed as a star in the making here. He's, for defensive rookie of the year, he goes from plus 800 odds to plus 100 through the first jump. 3 weeks. It's massive. I mean, that's just extraordinary for him. Having the half a sack he did that game, the forced fumble, the way that he is able to create that kind of pursuit. We seen Nolan Smith with that game. And as well as a few others, and of course, Bacon Grizz just mentioned to it, and that's the caveat. That's the caveat I'm going to give people right now. For as extraordinary as Jalen Carter is playing on the field, the biggest test is going to be, now you have to imagine it like this: Fletcher Cox next year, if he's not on this team. You put in Jalen Carter as well as he's been developing so far, and you have to ask yourself: Are you going to start to see these same results when he starts to when he gets like 100% of the snaps and his snap count goes drastically up week after week after week? And is he going to be the type of player that can handle that workload and still produce at a Pro Bowl caliber level? I think that's the biggest question that we're going to have going forward. But as of right now, in the snaps that he is given in a fantastic rotation on that defensive line, he's making the most of his chances. And I think that as of right now, that's all you can ask for, especially for what we paid in the draft, trading with the Bears to go get this kid.
Absolutely. Well said there about Jalen Carter. He's just playing unbelievable ball. The jump from 800 to 100 like that, I don't know if I've ever seen like odds like change so drastically like that so quickly. So moving on, we're going to talk about the biggest thing that is currently happening in
Before
the NFL.
that,
Which is everyone talking about. Did you have something else you wanted to add?
well, no, we wanted to start a new kind of a segment after every game. Our unsung heroes.
So our unsung heroes. This is a part of the show where we take a look from the last week and we talk about some of the names that probably is not getting enough credit because we give all the credit to the star players. But who's some unsung heroes from last week, Lindy?
I have two of them in particular. One of them is going to be kind of obvious and kind of not, only because of the performance of DeAndre Swift. But the other one, I think, is it's attached to his story of how long he's been a Philadelphia Eagle and how well his development has been taken. And I think a lot of that is courteous of, or considering what Tracy Rocker brings as a defensive line coach. And these two players I'm talking about in particular are going to be defensive tackle Marlon Tuipulotu and Cam Jurgens. Reason being, well, for Marlon, his story coming out of USC as a 6th round pick, and I know with some of the other content creators that I have talked to, since we have had him in the building, I know he is a favorite of a couple of guys, and he was kind of an underrated selection. And I think you're starting to see some of the reasons why, partially in credit to Tracy Rocker for one, because I think he's been doing a fabulous job with this defensive line. He's kind of developing he's kind of developing a brigade for himself, if you will. And then the other side of it is just taking the program seriously and getting those improvements out of them year after year in an excellent rotation where he's coming out and he's making plays. And I think it was last year to where he had I forget what game it was, but he had a fumble recovery. So he gets into this game. He records a sack on Baker Mayfield, comes in the rotation. Jalen Carter was also there with him. The tenacity that these guys are playing with as a unit. So I applaud that, and I'm very happy for him and his progress. And as for Cam Jurgens, his story is fascinating in its own right, because you remember in the draft coverage and when he was taken, oh man, endorsed by Jason Kelce, this is going to be his replacement and this, that, and the third. But he's making quite the home at the right guard spot. Like, who would have thought?
I've been impressed by Jurgens.
I mean, he was just as responsible on a lot of those big gains by DeAndre Swift for how wide they're splitting the Red Sea.
You can drive a truck through those holes, man.
It's just unbelievable. So there's people actually thinking to themselves right now, I don't want to move this kid. I don't want him to go to center for how darn good he's playing at right guard. Because, I mean, you look at it, and I'm not sure I'm not sure where the depth is in terms of that spot, like who you would put in behind him, because you see Landon Dickerson go out, I think for a few plays or a series. And Suo Peta comes in.
Pancake block. I've never seen somebody get hurt on a pancake like that.
Yeah, so I mean, Suo Peta comes in. He does what he needs to do. He's a serviceable guy, but it's, I'm just thinking, if Cam continues to make a home at right guard and he makes it to where that's where he is going to end up belonging, do you go the path of another center candidate, or do you move him regardless? He's making quite the case for such a strong level of versatility.
That's a bridge that we're going to have to cross when we get there, but It's definitely not a question for right now. I'm gonna go I'm gonna go in a different direction with this take. I'm gonna give offense. I'm gonna give that to Zacchaeus, the receiver that picked up from Atlanta last year. Only 2 catches in this game for 58 yards, but there were 2 timely, big time catches. Obviously, the touchdown. Jalen Hurts is patient. He stands in the pocket, takes the hit, delivers a beautiful ball. Zacchaeus is there to make the catch. Another catch was a 3rd down conversion. He finds Zacchaeus along the sideline for a first down, gets some good yards after the catch. So he's a guy that teams obviously aren't going to be talking about too much because everyone talks about what Hurts can bring to the table. Everyone talks about Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, etc., DeAndre Swift. Those guys are going to get all the attention. But if you fall asleep, Zacchaeus is a guy that can play and make some plays like he did in that game. And then defensively, I gotta go to Reed Blankenship on this one. The interception, Baker Mayfield, first interception of the year. Now, what was the biggest concern, or arguably the biggest concern for the Eagles? C.J. Gardner-Johnson is out. He goes to the Detroit Lions. Oh, the Eagles have a big hole at their safety position. What's going on? Well, so far, I have to say, Reed has answered that question when it comes to CJ, because he's doing a lot of the same things that CJ was doing, which CJ was flying around, making plays, making big hits, making tackles, flying around the field, having fun, making plays, getting turnovers. Reed Blankenship is a hell of a football player, so I gotta give him a lot of credit as well. So I'm going with Zacchaeus, and I'm also gonna go with Reed Blankenship on this one. So unsung heroes for the week. Next up,
you beat me to it with them, and I just didn't, because how do I want to word this? I didn't want to include guys like Reed and whatnot, because it's almost like you know what they're bringing to the table at that moment in time, and
we know, but they don't know.
That's yes. And I wanted to put Marlon in there just because I know he's a guy that you don't hear his name called very often, especially for good reason. And that's why he was my unsung hero for that Monday night game. Just because of his story and how well he's been doing. So yeah, but no.
Okay, guys. So that's it for our unsung heroes. Next up, let's talk about it. Everyone in the world is talking about it. We got to break this down. The Tush Push. The Eagles play that they run on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. They convert it like 90-something% of the time. It's they've damn near perfected it if they haven't already, But you have all these people around the league that's complaining about this play and how it's not supposed to be in the league. It needs to be getting rid of. They had league meetings last year where people were trying to vote to get rid of it. It's ruining the game and all this stuff. So here's what I have to say to the people. To our viewers, let's be serious. Jalen Hurts does not need help to get a first down. It really makes me wonder if people actually watched this guy play before. Let's go back to the Vikings game. Not this year, but last year. Who remembers that game? 2 rushing touchdowns. He literally had 3 guys that was trying to tackle him.
Mm-hmm.
He carried 3 guys into the end zone like he was LeGarrette Blount or something. Like he was Marshawn Lynch carrying people into the end zone. His lower body is very, very powerful. You're talking about a guy that squats 600 pounds, a guy that's constantly in the weight room, and it's extremely difficult to bring him down. So that push is not doing nothing. He can get the yards without the push.
I mean, some of the DBs were looking like they were anchoring in a tug of war competition, just trying to tackle them backwards away from the end zone in that game. So it's just crazy.
It's a basic short yardage play.
Yeah.
Other teams can run this play. There's not a rule that says only Eagles can run this play. That's not a thing. That's not a thing, guys. You can run it, and other teams do run it and have ran it, but they're not successful at running it because they don't have the personnel. They don't have Hall of Famer Lane Johnson, Hall of Famer Jason Kelce, guys that have been all pros at their position. They don't have Pro Bowl guard Landon Dickerson, left tackle Pro Bowl Jordan Mailata. They don't have these guys. These guys can literally just push you out of the way, get the yard, and that's it. You don't have the personnel to perfect this play, and you also don't work on perfecting the play in the first place. So you're upset that a team has figured out a formula that's going to make them successful, so now you want to complain about it and say it's ruining the game. It's absolutely pathetic, and I don't really have anything else to add to that.
Who did it this year, week 1? Colts and Jags. They both tried it against each other.
And they failed.
I think one of them was an attempted fourth down conversion that either did or didn't
Anthony
work.
Richardson got stopped.
It's like, nobody's telling the rest of the league that you can't do this. It's just because you're not as good as the Eagles at converting it. And I think the conversion rate is like 92% or something.
Yeah, that's why Jason
ridiculous.
Kelce and Travis Kelce always on their podcast say 92%ers.
It's crazy. So I mean, I know you and I are on the same page about this, but we also know that there's a couple of people that want Jalen Hurts hurt for it. If you want to get as low life as possible, that's happened. I think Chris Sims has talked about it and saying, if I was a defensive coordinator, I would be looking to hurt him and like make him stop doing it. Essentially like a roughing the passer call. Like, come on, what do you really? When is the hate for him going to stop?
To be fair to Chris, I understand the point that he's trying to make, but he's going about it the wrong way. He's wording it incorrectly.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
The more important thing here is, okay, well, do not allow the Eagles to get in third and short situations where they can utilize this play. Do a better job on first and second down and maybe create some more 3 and outs so you don't have to worry about them doing this brotherly shove on you that is supposedly damaging the league. Play better defense, keep the ball out of the Eagles' hands, and you don't have to worry about it. So in defense to that, well, in contrast to that first, not only was it Chris Sims talking about it, kudos to Richard Sherman, who had a very good point, in contrast for his own opinion. He had a nice debateful conversation with it. And then there was this other individual for Barstool Sports who wanted Jalen Hurts to get hurt because of this play, watching the game. I think we all know at this point on that one. But I do appreciate people that kind of take a more high road common sense or sophisticated approach to it, such as like JJ Watt, for example, or Brendan Walker from NFL Network. Just like what we were just talking about, JJ Watt's unpopular opinion to it, as he says here, if they weren't allowed to push from behind, the Eagles would still be just as successful as quarterback sneaks. Yes, it helps, but the push isn't the reason it is successful. as you just alluded to, it's the offensive line and Jalen Hurts himself, who back at Oklahoma was squatting 600 freaking pounds at his frame. Come on. So, and then, credit to Brandon Walker here. Like I said, from NFL Network, talking about the same thing. And he goes into a sophisticated detail about it, saying that the formation is specifically designed to gain short yardage, just a glorified quarterback sneak, situational football. They treat this stuff. It's treated almost as if, oh, you're gonna get a black check in that book of those things that you just can't do, like that secret book. Really, what are we doing here? Enough of the crying just because you can't stop it. Just do a better job defensively. I don't know how else to put it where it stays as simple as possible. So, yeah.
Stop the play, man.
Let's just stop it.
Just stop the play. That's all I got to say, man. So that's all we have time for.
While avoiding injury, of course.
When it comes to the subject, we got to talk about some more stuff that's going on with the team. So AJ Brown was forced to change his cleats. He started wearing the game wearing some greenish, yellowish cleats.
Highlighter. Neon.
And AJ had some interesting things to say in regards to this. I was reading an article earlier today where AJ pretty much said, it's kind of ridiculous at this point. You're making people change cleats in the middle of a game. For what reason? Like, what's the problem with him wearing some yellow cleats? I just don't really understand it. So the fine is around $7,000 for your first time offense when it comes to this. And AJ obviously not only wanted to avoid that, he didn't want to put the team in a detrimental situation where, people from the league would ask him to sit out of the game just because of some cleats. Like, it's kind of ridiculous at this point. And AJ was just saying how he feels like the players should band together and be like, look, y'all not going to find all of us.
Yeah.
So everybody just wear what you got to do. And AJ has a reason for doing this. Like, in training camp, he was wearing some bright pink cleats, so his daughter would be able to identify where he's at. So he's wearing these yellow cleats. His daughter is watching him at home. Where daddy's playing at, man? Like, it's just so stupid. The NFL has rules about every single thing. They try to remove fun. As AJ said, no fun league. They try to remove fun for the players. Just not really fair to them and their hard work and what they do to make this league such a great league, such entertaining. So really hate it for AJ. It's just another clown show going on with Roger Goodell.
It's almost like a private school dress code, if you think about it. It's almost what it's exactly like. Well, of course, I can attest to that because I used to go. I used to go when I was in elementary school and middle school, so I can kind of feel his pain. It's like you're stuck wearing certain shoes and a certain type of pants. They got to be this kind of color, and no other exceptions, and yada yada. And I think about it, and you talk about the fact that he also wore pink. Well, I have to assume that that's still in line when they do the Crucial Catch program for, and especially for Breast Cancer Awareness Month that's around the corner. When they do Crucial Catch, there's some dudes wearing pink. So it's like, right. Okay, well, if it's outside of a special theme, and you do it during that theme, what's the problem? What's the problem? And it's perfect how AJ talked about it. I mean, you got family watching you at home. especially when it's, especially if it's on a smaller TV screen, if you will, and all the players almost look exactly the same because their uniforms are like a 100% match and what have you. Well, okay, something as simple as cleats and a mouthpiece are a different color that's off of your team colors, and you're doing it for I guess a non-malice reason. Who cares? And you're still going to almost fine him, or like the penalty of it, $7,000. Really?
$7,000 for the first offense, and it goes
Can we
up
do
from
better? Can we do better? We're worried about the color of a tire not matching a team uniform, which, okay, we're midnight green, and then we have Kelly green this year. It's still a type of green. Who cares?
It's such a stupid reason. I'm very sorry for AJ. I'm very sorry for all the players around the league that has to continue to deal with this. So to wrap up the show, guys, week 4, Eagles 3-0, Commanders 2-1. Commanders with their first loss last week, a blowout loss to the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. And they come back into Philadelphia just like last year. The Eagles were undefeated. They come into the Lincoln Financial Field and they get a win, and they shock everybody at that point of the season. And then, is that trend gonna continue? That's a question we have to ask ourselves. But just want to go over some things for the Washington Commanders. So the talk of the season so far has been the Eagles' defensive line and the offensive line just winning in the trenches as they normally do. So last week or throughout the season, it's been a trend for the Commanders where Sam Howell is just getting beaten to a pulp. He's been sacked already 19 times this season. Last week, he was sacked 9 times against the Buffalo Bills, and he was hit. He was constantly under duress. 4 interceptions for Sam Howell against Buffalo in a 37-3 blowout loss. It was just an absolute disaster for them from start to finish. So the Eagles have a way they can exploit the Washington Commanders' offensive line. And they can, even though their defensive line's really good as well, Montez Sweat, you got Chase Young back, you got Jonathan Allen, you got Deron Payne. These guys are all former first-round picks.
We know
22nd against the run. So I see 2 main areas where the Eagles can continue to attack, which they've been doing this season. So I expect them to control the line of scrimmage, and I expect them to get after Sam Howell. I expect them to cause some turnovers, and I expect the offense to finally pick it all the way up. You've been picking it up a little by little each week. Week 1, not our greatest performance. We all know that against the Patriots. This next week against Minnesota, you put up 34 points. You put up 400 and something yards of offense, but it still wasn't the best product. Last week, again, you put over 400 and something yards of offense. Wasn't your best product. I think that we're going to get a much better product. I think the red zone efficiency is going to be better. I think the Eagles are going to go ahead and let everyone know that this is the division that we run this division. You're going to start with winning games in the division. That's how you set yourself up for success. I do think the Commanders are going to be a little bit more prepared, but I also think the Eagles are going to be prepared. I think the Eagles are going to get it done convincingly in front of that home crowd.
That's where I'm leaning, and I kind of took it a little bit of an extra mile. And in my notes, I talked about that. I think that this game is going to be a cakewalk for Philly, or it should be. It should be a cakewalk. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel. But I also understand at the same time it is any given Sunday, and the Eagles have a demon to exercise. You just talked about it. We're coincidentally in the same situation again. Washington is coming into our house. We're undefeated, and last year they snuck out a win because the Eagles were just too darn sloppy, more so offensively than defensively, and they got in a groove at the wrong time. So we're going to look to keep that undefeated streak alive. We're, as of right now, I think we're an 8-point favorite at home. It may not change. We'll see. But I look at it and I think Washington has not had much stability to speak of in recent years at the quarterback position, most of which pertains to either injuries or from a performance standard. We would know that very well from the years of Carson Wentz being there and then him getting shipped off to the Colts and what have you. And then, to me, and here we go. To me, the Commanders are worse than their record suggests. If you look back at their first 2 games, you go to week 1 against the Cardinals, both teams were unbelievably sloppy. They played like crap. Neither team had an advantage in terms of time of possession. It was the same situation week 2 against the Broncos. But however, the Commanders
got lucky in that game.
The Commanders snuck out a win in both games, courtesy of Sam Howell having a game-winning drive and a fourth quarter comeback win. So, I mean, and like I said, I still think, and that's pretty much part of the reason why I think they're worse than what their record shows at 2-1. And even if you go into further detail, I don't expect anything different. All of this is suggesting to me, like I said, it should be a cakewalk. But as they always say, it's any given Sunday. And the biggest thing to me for our Eagles is offensive efficiency.
Yep.
And we understand the first 3 weeks, Bill Belichick, Brian Flores, Todd Bowles, 3 tough defensive-minded coaches / coordinators that Brian Johnson had to face and come up with a efficient enough game plan to squeeze out a win. And it happened on the occasion against the Patriots. We were a lot more convincing week 2 against the Vikings, but defensively something happened late, all because there was too many 3-and-outs by the offense, and the Vikings end up scoring like 28 points. Week 3, almost all those issues were just about gone. So I think that's what it's going to come down to. I have respect for the pair of coordinators that Washington has, and Eric Bieniemy, formerly from the Kansas City Chiefs, and then Jack Del Rio, the coordinator. They are a competent pair to have. But it's what Washington was not doing to achieve better results. So over the course of the year, I think as a whole, when you look at them, they're staying particularly healthy, which is a good thing. Their quarterback, Sam Howell, out of UNC, is only a second-year guy. He's going to get it together because it's good to have a pair of guys to have your back between Eric Bieniemy and then head coach Ron Rivera. That's a nice situation for him to be in. But as of right now, he's not there quite yet. So in a nutshell, I have to believe that the Birds are going to win by at least 2 scores. Much like the Tampa Bay game, I think they're going to be a 2-score winner. And if they're really dominant, it might be 3 or 4. Because when you're defending your home turf, all bets are off. All bets are off. There's no way that they're going to let it happen twice. Washington coming in here and getting a win in the Lincoln Financial Field. I can tell you right now, Sirianni is not going to let it happen. He's going to hold a high standard to these guys. And, I really think they're going to put foots in Washington. They better. So that's just me.
Absolutely, man. I totally agree with what you're saying. I think that's going to be a statement win for the Eagles in the division. So that's about all we have time for tonight, guys. Make sure that you tune in to the Merrill Reese interview. I'm just going to edit that and have it uploaded. Most likely by Monday, it will be available on Lindy's channel. It will be available on my channel. It will be available anywhere on Sideline Sports YouTube, all the platforms that we use on Sideline Sports Network. So make sure that you guys tune in for that. Also, coming up next, the Gauntlet. We're going to have JJ back. We're going to have all the boys back to talk everything going on in the NFL. So make sure you guys tune into that starting in just a few minutes at 8 o'clock. Lindy, do you have anything to add before we get off the air?
I think as a side note, we want to thank everybody that has tuned in for our podcast, being able to go 35 episodes strong to this point, episode 36 premiering next week, the Merrill Reese interview. To know that we have a collection of regulars that watch us week in and week out, it's
you guys are awesome.
It's an awesome feeling, and I'm thankful for my channel to be active again for this podcast. So thank you guys for your interaction in the comments. We do pick them out every now and then.
Appreciate it, guys, for sure. And starting next week, may have some more faces coming on to the Linc'd In podcast. Not gonna say anything, man, but there might be some dingbats over here. You never know. Never know, guys. So Linc'd In Country, one last time before we get off the air. Linc'd In Country, let's ride.